Hi, it's Dr. Allison J.K. here, Q&A with Dr. A, questions and answers with a female spiritual teacher. It's been quite a month so far in August, and it doesn't matter when you're listening to this. It also doesn't matter if you're brand new to this whole spiritual thing, or you've been meditating for a month or a year or a decade, or you don't meditate at all. If you've just started doing yoga, or you're wanting to deepen your practice, or you're just somebody who has no idea about any of that except you are spacing out more and you want to have some understanding of how to help yourself bring back that focus. So without going into any of the teachings within the vast canon about meditation and what it can do to help increase our focus, what I'd like to do is zoom out a little bit more and help you better understand why it's even happening. So on NASA.com and on many different sites now, there's a measurement of the Schumann resonance, for example, and that measures the impact of what's hitting our planet from, for example, solar winds, which have been really high lately, and solar flares. So the solar winds will push more solar flares out into space, and then it'll reach the Earth, and it has an effect on our planet's electromagnetic grid, and that which affects us. Leaving out all of the human behaviors on planet Earth right now, just talking about some of the influences that we're dealing with that are influencing our consciousness. So in our traditional 7-chakra column, as a yoga teacher and meditation teacher and somebody who lived in Asia for a decade studying subtle energy and has been working with subtle energy and consciousness and energy medicine for a couple of decades now, the 12 chakra system has come in online. But within the 7 chakra system, just their energy centers where the mind, body, and spirit meet, their intersections, kind of like a major city or urban hub that then distribute throughout the body through all these other side routes. The crown chakra, every chakra is known to correlate not only to one of the major endocrine glands, but also to one of the planets. Jupiter is the planet the crown chakra connects to, and Jupiter is the planet of expansion. And as I say, and have been saying for close to a decade now, we are in the times, a 20-year window of massive expansion. When we are working with the 7 chakra column, it is to bring much more balance, health, well-being, vitality, and much more to our head down, to our feet. However, during these times we're in now, as you notice, like with the new launch from Tesla of the Dragon capsule, last month, or was it the beginning of this month, even like just 2 weekends ago, when it landed in the Gulf of Mexico, close to where I live. This is the first time where something has been launched out into space since the 70s. So we're having a renewed focus on space exploration. This is connected to the times we're living in now, and the propulsion and the influence upon our consciousnesses, like also the now more transcendental chakras of the 12 chakra system, more 5D, just ignore that if it doesn't mean anything for you right now, where there are the chakras above our head that are meant to help us connect to the more cosmic level. So it's considered in yoga a natural part of the spiritual path as you evolve more, that first you're working with disciplining the thoughts, the thinking mind, the small me, that the ego mind in its self-absorbed natural state, when it's not worked with, lives from. And in the process of meditation, which there's 8 limbs to yoga, 5 of those 8 limbs are about working with the mind. Only 1 is about the body postures, right? So in working with the mind, in yoga, we learn how to evolve and progress so that then we're able to actually work with our consciousness. And it's like, instead of you having your dog out for a walk and your dog's running you on a leash, and that's the wild mind that's undisciplined and unworked with, we're instead now walking the dog, and the dog is paying attention to the leash, and that means our mind is under control. The wild monkey mind isn't allowed to just be aberrant and do whatever it wants and have whatever self-absorption lead to whatever outcomes, and live from that perspective, from that small me localized consciousness. We then evolve more into not only being able to localize our consciousness, but connect to a non-localized consciousness. And there's been, that'll get us off the track. So the bottom line is, we are evolving, and we are meant to be evolving now as a species, and this is considered humanity's greatest evolutionary leap ever. And so you're having energetics or pockets of influencing factors, meaning frequencies, because all light, as a teacher of how to work with the light and how to bring it down for I don't even know how many decades at this point, in attuning others to do it, it has information. All light is information. And so when we're getting these solar flares and we're getting this increased exposure to galactic, because our Earth's electromagnetic field is reducing, as is the health of the biofield of the Earth. But that's another topic again. There's so much going on right now and involved in me giving you an answer here. Just understand that we are being more directly exposed to higher, more intense pockets of information. And the nature of the pockets of information is such that it's going to space you out, because they're so vastly different than what we're familiar with on Earth. Living in 3D reality where we're taking care of emails, and we're taking care of productive tasks, and we're buying material goods, and we're running errands, and we're interacting with others. There's so much more going on behind the scenes. And part of that, a great part of that, is the rebalancing of the divine masculine with the divine feminine, because that yang focus, the sun, for example, is considered yang or masculine when you look at the yin yang of the traditional Chinese culture. And the sun is yang, outward activity is yang, outward physically manifested things that you can touch tangibly is considered yang or masculine, whereas the inner work, anything that exists, not anything, but what exists before matter, before something becomes outwardly physicalized, it's energy. It has to exist in subtle energy before it ever becomes directed, momentized, and the wave collapses into a particle becomes matter. All of that pre-matter work is the feminine, the yin, the black of the yin yang, the seeding. And so working with subtle energy, working with our consciousness, working with the earth, which is feminine, and working with our bodies, which is feminine, all of that is considered yin. And so rather than only being focused on the outward tasks and maybe really focused, directed productivity that you're used to, task after task, getting knocked off the list, it might seem more like you're spacing out and you're having a harder time focusing, and you may be even having new thoughts. You may be even having, you're likely having new thoughts, but ones that don't necessarily make sense. Like it just might be a sentence of inspiration. And so the best way to work with that is not to fight the spaciness, not to get on medication necessarily. I mean, not ruling over your doctor and your relationship with your doctor, but don't go into problem mode and fix it mode. My first book, remember, is What If There's Nothing Wrong, that I wrote my last year living in Asia, talking about the differences and how much we're suffering in the West compared to the East because of how little we pay attention and value the consciousness and the subtle energy, the within, and how much more we value and place emphasis on the outward. So using these energies for what they're meant to, which means our expansion, because the Jupiter planet, all about expansion's hitting the crown chakra, which rules the pineal gland, which rules the central nervous system. The pineal gland is the master command center, as is the crown chakra over the central nervous system. So you may feel more sped up. And when we're meant to be expanding at a level behind the everyday thinking mind, that seems like the one that produces, yes, thoughts you do and don't want to have, and the productivity and the task lists, but there's also the greater propulsion towards life and living not from the mind, but from the heart, and the heart is feminine. So there's an expansiveness to what we're living as, or within, as the vibrational backdrop around us. These are big concepts. You might want to come back in and listen. I do this. This is, yeah. So working with the expansiveness, one of the key ways is asking, setting yourself up so that you can allow for that spaciness and lean into the spaciness. It's one of the things that we do in Qigong, which I also teach, is learning how to lean in instead of fighting and resisting something and setting up an opposite pole. So lean into the spaciness, go meditate, go for a walk in nature, go for a swim in the ocean, journal. All of these things are yin behaviors so that you listen to this expansiveness that makes you seem more spaced out, but it's not really that as much as it's wanting to have space to be heard and listened to. So ask, what are you wanting me to see? What would benefit me now to see? One of the other things you can do is movement to help bring this down and distribute throughout your system and have you become a more embodied presence, but feeling more spacious in your body. And another really helpful tool that I've been saying for years now is either wherever you live, if a copper coin, whether it's a penny in the States or a pence in the UK, for example, not that those are even in distribution anymore, you could put those in the bottom of your shoes. You could wear copper socks. I'm not talking about copper bracelets. We want to bring the energy down, and copper is a great conductor of electricity, and this energy is made up of electricity and magnetism. So learning how to work with this expansiveness to your benefit is what we want to be doing here. Yes, you are going to be feeling more spaced out now. So how do you accommodate that? And not only that, but how do you work it best for yourself to actually have the expansion and the evolution that you're meant to be having now? We're not shutting it down. We're leaning into it and asking it to inform us. You can get more perspective if you want on this in my last two books, both Vibrational Upgrade, A Conspiracy for Your Bliss, and the third one, Reasonable Dragons. Both are international #1 bestsellers. Reasonable Dragons is available on audible.com, and people love that version. Then, if you want to do more actively, you can go on to my programs page and look into all the different ways, or my shop, and look into all the different ways you can get more than just started. If you already have the perspective and you want to understand how to truly expand into the unbelievable prospects that are happening for us all. And whether you are at home and emanating your light and loving on your family and helping serve the collective through our interconnectivity, or you have a great big mission and you're out there like myself, anything on that spectrum and in between, it doesn't matter. If you want to just learn how to live with this most magnificent quality that's here now to help us all have a much more beautiful, brilliant existence, yeah, check out the programs page, because that's what I'm up to day in and day out. Okay, blessings, namaste.